when I was looking at the room when we first started, it was maybe half full, and standing up here now, it's completely full. So people really want to be here, and honestly, this really gives me hope. This is really what democracy is all about. Thank you very much for all of you being here. Please, please, yeah. Ward 4 and 5 have been doing these forums for the last few years. I want to thank Jonathan and Carol and Ryan and Kristen, who is from Ward 5, and myself. We're the team that have put this together. So a hand of applause for the team that put this together. Thank you very much. A little secret though, without Ward 4, this wouldn't have happened. They really are the backbone of this whole thing, so thank you very much for your help. Ward committees are so important. I encourage everyone to get involved. They keeps us connected. You meet with like-minded people. It's honestly, it's fun, it's important, and it's extremely rewarding. I did this, I joined 10 years ago, Ward 5, and honestly, it has kept my sanity. You ask my wife, she will tell you where I was 10 years ago after the first election, the Trump election. So I really encourage you to get involved, and ward committees are the best way to get involved. So look them up, call them up, and join them. Ward 5 is downtown Boston. We actually, Beacon Hill, Bay Village, Back Bay, the Fenway, parts of Chinatown, and the South End. We would love to have you join our committee. You don't have to join, you just come and listen to us. We always have great speakers, so get involved, and again, ward committees are the way to do it, I believe. Before, oh, by the way, we meet on Tuesday, every Tuesday, once a month on Tuesdays, except for August and December. We have December holiday party. But every Tuesday you can find us over in Copley Square. Look us up on their website. What?
Third Tuesday.
Oh, third Tuesday. I'm sorry, third Tuesday. That's why nobody shows up. It's the second Tuesday every month. The third Tuesday. Yeah. So anyway, so before we start the second half, I have to read this reminder. We will not be taking questions from the audience this evening. I think this was said earlier. The moderator's questions have been reviewed by our Boston ward committees to ensure that our neighbors' priorities are reflected. As well, we've invited registrants to include questions that they signed up to attend in our Eventbrite platform. Now, I'd like to welcome back Samantha. For those that came in late, and I know a lot did, Samantha is a politics reporter for the Boston Globe. She covered state government and politics for the Beacon Hill Bureau since 2022. Samantha was born and raised in Northwest Indiana, graduated from Boston University with a degree in journalism. Samantha, are you ready to start the second half?
Let's do it.
Good. I think the audience is, and it looks like the contestants are somewhere here, so let's welcome them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ollie. I'll give a couple minutes to have folks take seats and settle. Oh, yeah, please take a water. Oh, yeah, Latoya, there's water if you want. Okay. Thank you. Good. How's the audio in the back? Good? Okay, good. Thanks, guys. It's kind of Yes.
Are we missing something?
We're all set now. Oh. Hi there, I'm Samantha. Nice to meet you. Would you like a water?
Yes, please. How are you, Latoya?
Yep.
All right.
Oh, you got one?
I think that one's mine.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
But I'll sacrifice it. Do you guys all have one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for joining us for part 2 I will kind of go over the ground rules again. So the candidates will begin with a 90-second opening statement, and then there will be a mix of 60-second open-ended questions and some lightning round quick questions. I may direct specific questions to individual candidates. I reserve the right to follow up to a candidate's answer with an additional question. In that case, candidates will get 30 seconds for follow-up responses. If a candidate is mentioned by name or insinuation in another candidate's answer and wishes to rebut, they can request a 30-second rebuttal, just say so. And to the fullest extent possible, candidates will receive equal time. Ben and Tony are our timers in the front row. They're gonna keep us honest and on time. We did a really good job with that last time, so we'll keep that up. We had 5 candidates with us this evening. We had 2 for the Suffolk and Middlesex seat. Hopefully you guys all got to see that. And now we have 3 for the first Suffolk. We've invited all Democratic candidates who have been certified by the State Elections Commission. The last note of admin is please hold your applause during the Q&A portion. We have lots of ground to cover and we want all of our candidates to respond to as many questions as possible. I do have a lot of questions. I did burn through them the last time, so we'll see how this goes. And our candidates have provided their introduction, so I'm going to introduce them and then we will do opening remarks and then we'll get going. So starting closest to me is Juwan Skeens, a Dorchester-raised community leader, founder of Be Birth Incorporated, Southern New Hampshire University student, and former Boston District 4 neighborhood liaison.
Thank you.
And then we have State Senator Nick Collins, a lifelong Bostonian fighting for working families, economic mobility, public safety, and neighborhood investment. And then at the end, we have rooted in the heart of Dorchester, Latoya Gayle is a mother of 4, a lifelong advocate, and a community-centered leader. So thank you guys so much for all joining us. How awesome is this to have everybody here? So we will start with Juwan, if you want to do your opening remarks, and we'll go this way to begin.
Yes, first and foremost, I want to thank Wards 4 and 5 for hosting us this evening, and thank you for the community for showing up for this conversation. My name is Juwan Skeens. I was born and raised here in Dorchester. I went to all Boston public schools, Joseph Lee School, Tillman Middle School, South Boston Excel High School. My story is no different. I lost my best friend Stephen Odom in 2007 to gun violence. My community had to figure out how do we pull through it. We found a neighborhood association, started making changes in our neighborhood. I worked for Andrea Campbell before she was the Attorney General. She was the Boston City Council President, so I'm very familiar with politics. But I came here today because we should ask not what our community can do for us, but what we can do for our community. I've been advocating for improvements in the North Fork Street Bridge in my neighborhood since 2019. It's been a problem since before the pandemic. I raised it to elected officials on all levels, and we've had no response. So I've been running for office since 2023, calling attention to the issues inside of my community, and I have no plans on slowing down or stopping. Thank you.
Thanks. Senator.
Thank you. Thank you to the Ward 4 and 5 committee for hosting us. My name is Nick Collins. I'm the state senator for this district, running for re-election because I believe that this district needs someone with the experience and the ability to deliver for the district. Millions of dollars annually in the budget for community programs, as well as improving our public safety. Now we can walk down Southwest Corridor Park because we have increased resources to ensure that people can enjoy that area safely. I was born and raised here in Boston. Went to Boston Latin School and Babson College. Thank you very much. And very proud of the record that we built in this district. We have broad-based support because of that. Over 30 organizations, including the Massachusetts AFL-CIO, have endorsed our campaign, along with many colleagues, including my predecessor, former Senator Linda Singatori, and former colleague Marie St. Fleur. So very proud of the support we have and look forward to tonight's debate.
Thank you. Latoya.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Latoya Gayle. I'm a mom of 4. I always start my introductions that way. And for the last 2 decades, I've built a career in advocacy that was driven because I have a child on the autism spectrum. And whether we were seeking healthcare or education, what we found is that systems just weren't working for us and that we weren't the only ones. I have co-founded and led organizations for and with families, and I've worked with educators and legislators to push systems and policies to be more equitable. I know what it looks like when that relationship is strong, and I know what it looks like when that relationship breaks down, and that's why I'm running for state senate. Because we have a senator who stands in the way of progress, who bows to corporate interests, and who prioritizes the wealthiest residents. My parents were born in Alabama in the 1930s, and never in my wildest nightmares did I imagine that the world that my children are growing up in would more closely resemble the world that my parents grew up in than the one that I did. And as we approach this nation's 250th birthday, we deserve a senator who is ready to push policy towards the ideals that were declared for we, the people.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna try to mix up who starts the questions, but I appreciate this and we'll work through this because we have a long line. So we're here in Boston. Most of your constituents will be constituents of the city. I wanted to ask how you see your relationship with the mayor of Boston. And if you see Beacon Hill as a partner to City Hall and its priorities, or a check on City Hall and its priorities. Senator Collins, you could start.
I think it's going to be both. And there are times where you're working closely together, and sometimes you're debating, and that's the important part of this job. It's not to be a yes person. It's not to do everything somebody asks you to do when you represent 150, 160,000 people. So I think when you're talking about economic development and affordable housing, we've had great partnerships and great success in the legislature working with the city. This year we've not only increased government aid along with education funding, but most people don't know this. We have a special subsidy that the state legislature delivers for Boston Public Library System, close to $20 million a year. But when issues come up that need scrutiny, we have to provide that. And so in the past, I've supported the mayor and the city's efforts much more than we haven't. But when it comes to complicated issues, sometimes we need a compromise. And that's what we sought. That's what we passed in the Senate on some major tax relief. That was 75% of what the city was looking for.
Thank you. And I'm just going to follow up. If you can just, say again, how is your relationship with the mayor? I feel like we didn't get there.
Well, in a debate, but I will say we were at a service a couple of weeks ago for somebody that we both know well who was leaving service at the cathedral. And there's a point in the Mass where the priest leading it asks us all to offer a sign of the Lord's peace. And the mayor turned around and offered me peace. So I guess while we're in a debate, we're at peace.
All right, Juwan.
So yeah, I had the chance to know the mayor before she became the mayor. I worked in city government under Andre Campbell when she was the Boston City Council president. I worked with the mayor's office, with Michelle Wu at large city council at that time. I worked with her on community events like the Boston Youth Expo that we held at the Boys and Girls Club on Talbot Avenue in 2017. Along with Ayanna Presley, Anissa Sabi George, as well as our office. So my relationship, I do know her. I'm familiar with her work. I do believe that the state could be doing a little bit more to support the city of Boston, not just Michelle Wu. But I definitely think that, they go hand in hand when it comes to the city of Boston partnering with the state.
Thank you. Latoya.
And can you repeat the exact question?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, more time is elapsing between these questions. Yeah, the question was most of the constituents in this Senate district are constituents of the city as well. And I wanted to ask how you see your relationship with the mayor, in a state Senate seat, and if you see Beacon Hill as a partner to City Hall or as a check on City Hall and its priorities.
Well, I see Beacon Hill's relationship as a partner to the city of Boston. We share constituents, and you get more things done when you're working together and not in conflict and fighting. My personal relationship with the mayor is I've gotten to know her since I've thrown my hat in the ring for state Senate, and we have a great relationship so far.
Thank you. This is kind of, in this similar line of Boston, just because, so much of this district is Boston. I wanted to ask a couple yes or no questions on the Boston home rule petitions that are before the legislature. So we'll start with you, Latoya, and go down this way. Yes or no on the real estate transfer fee, allowing a tax on high dollar real estate transactions to fund affordable housing?
Yes.
Local option.
Absolutely.
All right, then we'll go the other way. A temporary shift of more of the city's property tax burden onto commercial real estate in order to ease property tax spikes for homeowners. We'll go this way, yeah.
Repeat the question, say that one more time.
If this is a yes or no on the home rule petition to shift the property tax burden onto commercial real estate.
It should be shared equally. If they can accept more of the tax burden, then that's how it should be.
Okay.
No, it failed 21 years ago. It would fail again. We need to use our tools that we passed 75% of the home rule petition, which would provide real tax relief.
I say yes, like the majority of electeds who represent the city of Boston.
Thank you. We'll go down the other way. What about rent stabilization and just cause evictions?
Yes.
I am against just cause evictions. So is the question, do you support removing just cause evictions?
Yes, the home rule petition.
I'm against just cause evictions and for the local option.
Okay, and for rent stabilization, you said the local option?
Yes, to both, but I definitely want to see rent control. I feel like rent stabilization is too nice.
Can you expand on that?
Yeah. I just feel like when you say rent stabilization, when there was rent control back in 1994, rent was about maybe $500-600, for a one bedroom. Right now, we see it skyrocketing to about $3,000 to a bedroom. Rent stabilization, I don't think will come as close to rent control.
Thank you. While we're kind of on the topic of rent and affordability. Affordability is a buzzword this year. It's everywhere. And this is because of real increases in the cost of living. Everything costs more. What would be your top two, if we could keep it to two priorities to address the high costs faced by your constituents? Latoya, we'll start with you.
Housing is the number one issue when you talk to folks across the district. And this district is very diverse, but no matter what neighborhood you're in, people bring up housing. So we need to figure out ways to build more housing. We need to find ways to stabilize rent for folks. So, because it's about stability for people. I think the other big thing for people is their utility bills. People are scared to open them up every month. I've talked to people who are making the choice, do they get enough groceries for the week or do they pay their whole light bill? I don't think people should have to make those choices, and I think the state could be holding our utility companies more accountable for that.
Thanks. Juwan?
Yes, when it comes to rent control, well, even when it comes to, making sure that housing is the biggest topic that's affecting our community. When it comes to, the utilities, you also need to factor in insurance rates, how they're discriminating by zip code. I think that's something that also needs to come down if you're talking about bringing down rent, bringing down utilities, and bringing down insurance as well.
Senator, on affordability, your top two priorities to address affordability?
Yes, so I'm proud to have supported the MBTA's Community Act. I think that rather than pushing municipalities to get with the program outside of Boston, because Boston does historically has produced more affordable housing, we should be putting our foot on the gas with MBTA assets, particularly in the outskirts of the city. If you think about all the commuter rail stops that have parking lots, they're not subject to local zoning. We could be building affordable housing at scale leveraging public land, because you have three things that drive up the cost of housing. One, cost of land, cost of labor, cost of capital. Asking people to make less to build things is really not fair, but we have the ability on public land to provide that relief, as well as using finance tools to help accommodate and drive down that cost. So I would be pushing hard using public land. And on affordability with respect to utilities, I don't think we need to sacrifice our efforts to transition our system to
I think that's all you
to,
got.
to affordability.
I'm going to ask about utilities
Okay,
again.
fair
so,
enough. And
yeah.
I have an answer for that as well.
Awesome, thank you. So yeah, I have a few follow-up questions kind of about affordability. Housing, you guys all mentioned housing when it comes to affordability. What are some steps you would advocate for to make sure that Boston specifically is increasing its supply of housing and making housing affordable for a range of residents? Juwan, we'll start with you.
So when I was working for the Boston City Council as a neighborhood liaison, I helped to advocate for the Community Preservation Act. For those who don't know, it's a portion of your property taxes that's donated to affordable housing, historic preservation, and building on our open spaces and green spaces. That's something that I will definitely tap into to make sure that we have affordable housing inside the city of Boston. And in addition to that, rent control. I love the MBTA Communities Act. I think that's great. But definitely we need to make sure that there's a lot of vacancies inside the city of Boston without rent control. So with rent control, we can start to put people more in housing.
Thanks. And Senator? The question was, sorry, I'm going to repeat this. Housing construction has slowed, and what steps would you advocate for? What steps would you advocate to make sure that Boston is increasing its supply and making housing more affordable?
Well, I think we have to approach it sort of all options on the table. We need to build more affordable housing, we need to build more workforce housing, and we need to build more market rate housing. And I think we need to take approaches that we've taken, let's say at Mary Ellen McCormick, where we're leveraging public assets to triple the amount of units in areas where we can absorb density. This is a transit-oriented area. It's a stone's throw from 2 transit stops in the MBTA.
And Senator, I'm just going to remind you to speak up. I feel like we have some people in the back. Can you guys hear okay back there? Okay, just making sure. And Latoya, go ahead for, this is about housing and what steps you would take to increase supply in Boston and make it more affordable.
Yeah, the fund was already authorized. And so we can turn the Affordable Homes Act from authorization to actual dollars. I support real estate transfer fees, that money goes towards affordable housing. And we need to build more housing. This is a supply and demand game, right? And so just more housing and approve what's already been funded. Fund what's already been approved, I'm sorry.
Thank you. And we'll go back to utilities because we're talking about affordability.
Yeah.
Utility bills are rising for everyone. What are 3 concrete steps the state Senate can take to reduce utility bills? Senator Collins.
I think the biggest tool we can use is to lift the burden off of ratepayers to accommodate the transition of our energy system, and how to do that. So we have obligations to meet our environmental goals. And so rather than trying to offset that by paring those efforts back, I think we should be introducing bonding tools, which I'm pushing the state Senate to include in our energy reform bill, which would stretch out the financing of our transition, which is right now on the backs of ratepayers. If you think about the difference between a short-term mortgage or a long-term mortgage. If we spent to rebuild roads and bridges, if we did that over a shorter financing period, it would be way more expensive to the annual cost. So I think introducing those tools will drive down the monthly costs for utilities, and that's, I think, the biggest thing we can do.
Great, thanks. Latoya, on the cost of how to reduce utility bills. 3 concrete steps the state Senate could take.
I think we need to start moving towards green energy. The state needs to start producing our own clean, green energy so we are less reliant on energy that's provided by fossil fuels. I think that we need to stop incentivizing utility companies to build infrastructure that we're moving away from. And I think we should beef up mass saves. It's something that I use as a renter and I use it as a homeowner.
Juwan?
All right. So I think the electrical industry is a little bit monopolized. I feel like we need to diversify the industry a little bit more in order to help costs come down, because when there's competition, costs come down. And then when I also think about utility companies, I feel like they should do more education for the community on how to save. Because sometimes it can be simple as taking electrical sockets out. That can help save some money, right? So it's education and monopolizing it, redoing the monopolizing, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is kind of goes hand in hand. I'm gonna tell you guys 3 big tranches that can be addressed to address the climate crisis in Massachusetts. There's transportation, there's buildings, and there's power. So pick 2 and talk about a policy priority for each. So transportation, buildings, and power, and how it can address the climate crisis. We'll start with you, Juwan.
Transportation, building, and power. And how it can change the climate crisis.
So pick 2 of those and then talk about a policy priority that you would push as a state senator.
Okay. Okay, let's think about climate change. Well, like I said, the biggest thing is education. When it comes to climate change, is educating the community about the importance of, keeping our environments clean, taking care of home. And then, what we also need to start talking about with the environment is, how to recycle and compost. I think, finding ways to, reuse energy and teaching the community about that could be very helpful. When it comes to transportation, right? I do believe electricity, having electric vehicles might be supportive, but we're in New England, they may freeze, right? You face those factors. So it's important that we have a hybrid option. I think hybrid is very important for the community. And then you said power. Now, when you say power...
Your time's up.
Oh, okay,
I was only asking to address 2.
Yeah, okay, good. All right, cool.
So to remind the candidates, transportation, buildings, and power, pick 2. What are your priorities in addressing the climate crisis in those tranches? Senator Collins.
So for transportation, it would be to electrify the MBTA. And the more capacity, the more reliability we have with the MBTA, the less people are going to be driving around in their vehicles. And by electrifying the system, our bus system, our transit system, we're not only going to be able to expand access to public transportation, but also in this district, we have the Fairmount line. We have a train system that goes through some of environmental justice communities that blow off diesel. That would change the game. So on transportation, we're electrifying the MBTA system. And on power, it's to bring in more avenues for renewable energy. Not just wind, solar, hydro. We need a full menu of options.
Thank you. And Latoya?
I agree. We need to work on transportation. We need to make sure that our tea is reliable so people will choose to take it. And make it more affordable for people. The tea, I don't know how many people here took the tea here today, but if you have to take several trips a day, it's really expensive. So I think we need to make it more affordable and more reliable. And as we're building new buildings, they need to be green. We're building for the future. We're building for sustainability. So we'll be using less power and buildings will be cooler and they'll be environmentally friendly.
Thank you. All of these things cost money, right? These programs. And the state is facing a really steep budget shortfall next year because of federal cuts to grants and other programs and SNAP and Medicaid. How should the state respond to this? If you were a state senator, we'll start with Senator Collins.
Well, I think we have to decouple our state tax code from the federal tax code, which would drain significant resources that would come with the Trump tax cuts. That's the first bit. Also to pass the corporate fair share, which would end the corporate loopholes that corporations are using to stash assets offshore. And we have to grow our economy. We have to provide a pro-growth agenda. That's why I support the DRIVE Act. And when we need to tap into our surplus, proud to have been a part of establishing our largest surplus fund in the state's history and our highest bond rating. But when you're in a storm, and this one's a political storm, you have to be willing to use it. And I think that combination, we also have to remind ourselves that half of our state budget is healthcare, which is a right, and that has to be our top priority.
Thanks, Latoya. How would you address our revenue shortfall?
I'm going to agree with Senator Collins here. I think we absolutely need to decouple from Trump's one big beautiful bill. And we also need to think about ways to raise more revenue, like a surtax on super wealthy people, people who are earning over $100 million in this state. And we need to make sure we're not advocating for loopholes for people to avoid paying, wealthy people to avoid paying taxes.
Thanks. And Juwan?
I would support State Auditor Diana Zazzaglio in auditing our city and state government, so that way we can figure out where the money is going, and we can actually better utilize it for better things. I feel like there's been a lot of wasteful spending at the city and state and federal level, and it needs to be checked. Thank you.
Thank you. You mentioned the auditor and kind of this push for transparency.
Absolutely.
I have a kind of a multi-part question, which I asked our other candidates as well. I would like you guys to give the current state senate a grade on transparency, A, B, C, D, or F. And then I'll follow up with a question. So we'll start with Juwan.
F.
Senator Collins.
Needs improvement.
Can I get a letter? A, B,
Two
C,
letters.
D.
That's a grade. My daughter's here.
Okay.
School.
All right. I guess it's been a while since I've been in school, so I guess that's a grade. Latoya.
I'll be kind and I'll say a D+.
Okay. Does this represent an improvement or a regression over the past decade?
We have not improved at all. I don't see us improving at all. I feel like we're actually going in the wrong direction. Our community is not being invested in the proper way. So I think there needs to be some change.
Okay. Progression or regression, Senator?
On the concept of transparency?
On transparency, on the grade that you gave, yeah.
Okay. So in this legislative session, we passed a rules package change, which has all votes online, has all meetings online. We have more time between when we have our public sessions and public meetings, more so than municipalities. I think it is significant progress, in particularly the work we've done in the Senate in partnership with the House to update our joint rules, which governs how we collaborate on legislation, on timelines. We've bumped up our timeline, so we have more time as we get towards the end of legislative session to come up with compromise. Because that's what this is about. This job is about working hard and at the end of the day, finding a way to compromise. It's not about absolutism.
Thanks, Latoya. Progression or regression in the last 10 years based off your grade?
I haven't been paying attention enough to know if it's a progression or regression, but I know where we are now. And I know what I hear from voters when I'm out. Voters bring up the audit constantly, and it's really about that voters don't feel like they can trust the government. And it's not just about how much money is spent, it's about they don't know how decisions are made. They don't understand what's happening. And that's what the audit is really about. People want to feel like they can trust their government.
Understood. Thank you for that. What is one concrete thing you would do in the state Senate to improve transparency? We'll start with Senator Collins.
Well, I would keep doing what I'm doing and encourage my colleagues to do the same, which is not just rely on what's on our books and in our law. By the way, you can look at all the spending that's been done in the Senate, which is less than, the legislature, in the Senate, less than 1% of the state budget, on our meetings, on every hearing we testified on every hearing we've held, on the all the activities inside the state house. But get out into the district. We have district hours. We're at 50 civic associations a month. I see a lot of people that I've met and have given us a lot of feedback at these civic associations. And being out in the district, this is a 7-day-a-week job. Anyone who thinks this is a part-time job, you're fooling yourself. So being out there among the people and staying in contact, because if you're not out of touch, you never have to get in touch.
Thanks. Latoya.
subject themselves to open meeting laws, subject themselves to Freedom of Information Act. People want to be able to request. They want to know what's going on. Again, that's what it's about.
Juwan, what's one concrete thing you would do to improve transparency?
I would make public testimony public. I think it's important to, know how senators are going to vote, where their, support, or where they're, who's opposing. We should know where that is coming from.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I can just,
Yeah, please.
you can.
30 seconds.
All hearings are online. You can hear what people have said. Public testimony, if people ask for public testimony, that's disclosed. So that is available.
I've gone to public sessions where they haven't recorded me. So I have to let you know it's not always public. We say we're being transparent. No, we're not.
At the State House?
It's not just at the State House.
But that's what we're talking
Yeah,
about.
we're talking about the state senate. So we'll keep on track
Thank you.
here. So there's a record number of ballot questions this year. It's, some say it's a sign of a healthy democracy. Some say it signals something. What do you make of the fact that we have a record number of ballot questions this year? Latoya.
I think democracy is strong because the people are using their power, but I think it is a sign for some questions, like for rent control. I think that's a sign that the legislature hasn't been doing their job because advocates have been asking for a solution to this. For some questions, like reducing the income tax rate, I think that is just, some wealthy people who are trying to get back because they have a surtax.
Juwan?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, the question is what you make of the fact that there's a record number of ballot questions on the ballot this year, and if you think it's a sign of a healthy democracy, if you think it's a sign of something else. These are questions people got signatures to put on the ballot.
Yeah, I think our state can sometimes overwork our citizens to do too much. We shouldn't have to have so many ballot questions on the ballot. There should just be a democratic process where the community can have the senator vote for the issue. I feel like the fact that it's so drawn out that you have to collect over, I think it's about 50,000 signatures to make it on the ballot. That's a problem. That's something that needs to change. I think it's great that there's a way that people can get on the ballot in that way, but that needs to be more transparent and effective.
Senator Collins, what do you make of the ballot questions?
Well, it's a symptom nationwide where people think that they can pay for signatures to get on the ballot and push their agenda. Sometimes there are good issues where there's been a lot of debate and not a final resolution, but in other cases, it's a significant amount of resources being poured in to push issues at the ballot. And I think some were mentioned that some are good, some are bad. Obviously, that's up to you in your opinion. They're kind of wide range on the spectrum at this ballot initiative, but we look what happens in California, where they basically take the legislature out, the voice of the people. It's just loaded with zillions of dollars poured into campaigns. Yes means no, no means yes, very confusing. And I think that it's something that I'm glad we addressed in our legislative session this year by passing reform for ballot initiatives with respect to the disclosure of who's funding them.
Thank you. I have another yes or no, if we could go through some ballot questions. So we'll start with Juwan, we'll go down, and then we'll go back. I'll point to you guys to make it not so confusing. So number one, this is not the order that they're on the ballot. This is not my paper. Ban cities and towns from requiring minimum lot sizes greater than 5,000 square feet for single-family homes. Yes or no?
Yes.
Senator?
Yeah. Say something, please.
This is the minimum lot size requirement. Going up. Basically banning cities and towns from requiring minimum lots be 5,000 square feet for single-family homes.
So the question is whether or not I support.
Whether you support banning this, yeah.
Yeah, no.
Okay. Latoya? Sorry, that's kind of distracting.
Yes, I support banning them.
Okay, we'll start over here too on allowing public defenders to unionize.
Yes.
Yes, I've been on record in support of that in the legislature, and hoping we still pass it before the end of the session.
Absolutely.
All right. What about Election Day voter registration?
Absolutely. Voting should be a holiday.
I've already supported that in the Senate, and I do support that.
Yes.
Okay. So we're more alike than we think, people. All right, we'll start down here. Replace the state's partisan primary elections with an all-party primary system.
I do not support that.
No, but I do support ranked choice voting.
Repeat the question, say that one more time.
Yeah, if you support the changing the party system or the primary system to an all-party primary.
No.
Subjecting the governor's office and the legislature to the public records law. We'll start down here.
Yes.
Yes, discharge legislation out of my committee to that effect.
Absolutely.
Recriminalize recreational marijuana.
No.
No.
Absolutely not.
Right. Overhaul the state tax collection cap, which is the law that's known as 62F.
Overhaul state, say that again?
The cap on state tax collection, where if they
okay.
collect more, it has to go back to taxpayers.
No. Wait, you said overhaul, it goes back to taxpayers.
Overhaul the cap that as it exists, which right now, if the state collects too much money, it has to go back to taxpayers. It's a law called 62F.
Yes, still have that.
I think that we should lift that, given where we're heading in these next couple of years. I do think the flexibility to be able to, preserve those resources is important.
Okay, thanks, Latoya.
Yes.
Okay. Cutting the income tax from 5% to 4% over a 3-year period.
Absolutely not.
No.
No.
Enact rent control statewide, or I would be curious to hear if you support the compromise, which ballot question leaders say if the State House passes a bill to repeal the statewide ban on rent control, they would drop the measure from the ballot. So either yes or no on the ballot question or yes or no on the compromise.
Yes, I support rent control.
I think the ballot initiative is too strict, but I am open to compromise, as I said earlier, and local option.
So do you support a compromise where the State House passes a bill to drop the statewide?
Well, I haven't seen what
ban?
that's going to be yet, and we've heard rumblings, but I'm open to compromise.
Okay.
I would say yes to both of those things.
All right, awesome. Thank you guys for entertaining me with that one. This is another question that I wanted to ask, kind of just about Boston. We talked about the Boston 250th.
Yeah.
Talked about the World Cup is here, basically really soon, and Boston seeing millions of visitors come this summer. I wanted to ask what you would recommend a visitor do in your district if they were visiting from somewhere else, and a late night spot you would take them now that Boston seems primed to allow bars to stay open up to 3 a.m. through July 31st. The governor signed that into law, I believe, yesterday. Yeah. So we'll start with Senator Collins.
Thank you. I would recommend going to Castle Island in the morning for a walk, checking out the Greenway, working together with the state. We were able to extend the Greenway basically from Castle Island all the way to Mattapan Square. And at late night, I think I'd pick the night when the Cabo Verdean national team's playing and see you at Cesari's.
Awesome. Latoya?
I think this district has the best eating in the city, so I would tell somebody to eat their way through the district. You could go to Mike's in the South End for breakfast or Amrine's for creme brulee French toast. You could have a banh mi for lunch in Dorchester or go to Windsor and Chinatown for dim sum. Then you could go to Cesaria's for a Cape Verdean meal, or if you can get in, you can go to Comfort Kitchen for a diaspora meal.
And a late night spot that's
a late night.
Which should be open until 3 a.m.
Girl, I'm not out that late. Let me think. But you know what? I would tell you, just walk up and down West Broadway or Dot Ave. There's plenty of great, pubs and restaurants, and if they're all going to be open late, stop in at all of them, do a bar crawl.
I would definitely stop by McKenna's Cafe, right, for breakfast at Phil's Corner. I would go over to, let's see. I would make sure on Saturdays that you join Friends and Family Living Healthy. They are at Franklin Park and they walk every Saturday. So if you're looking for a walking group that's very supportive, I would encourage you to do that. And I would also want you to get out and enjoy some entertainment. So I'll probably take you somewhere downtown and enjoy some entertainment. As far as a place that I would like to see open till 3 a.m., the library.
I like that.
There we go. Yeah. Okay, 3 a.m. All right, let's make it happen, Senator.
Yeah, that's on the record. Newsfeed Cafe at the BPL till 3 a.m. There's a lot of great things about our city, but also there's a lot of inequality in our city.
Absolutely.
I wanted to hear from you all what policies specifically you would advocate for to reduce inequality in Boston in particular. So we'll start with you, Juwan.
I think it's important to pass reparations legislation. I think that one of the issues with inequality is the fact that we haven't acknowledged the history of the city of Boston. And we need to make sure that we're educating every community on the importance of reparations. And I also want to make sure that when it comes to making sure our community is on the same page, we need to have more settings like these where we're able to come together, share thoughts and ideas on ways to improve things. I don't feel like it should just solely be at the city or state house or city hall. It should definitely be more inside of the community. Thank you.
I think funding, and you can talk about values, but your values are in a budget. So whether it's infrastructure or services, and that's something that I've been focused on. But I think the ultimate equalizer is a quality education. And so equally funding our schools and ensuring that each school has the resources to allow our teachers to do what they do best and help our young people fulfill their dreams and reaching their full potential is the best way to deal with inequity in a sustainable way, and that's shared across the city.
Thank you.
Oh, that's a hard question. I think that this country is at an inflection point once again, where we have our freedoms being threatened to be taken away. And the truth is that when Senator Collins has had the opportunity to stand up for equity in the past, he hasn't. When the law enforcement and advocates said that undocumented folks should be able to have driver's license so they can get to work, so they can get to school, Senator Collins said, no, I would vote yes on something like that. When Roe v. Wade was overturned by our Supreme Court, Senator Collins didn't stand with the rest of his colleagues and tried and override Baker's veto. He said no. And I would make childcare more affordable.
30 seconds rebuttal, if you want it.
Thank you. We are the only state in the union that has continued to fund early education. $1.7 billion, an increase of 10% over the year over year this last year. So while more can be done, we are doing quite a bit as it relates to early education and care. With respect to the Roe Act, I did support the Roe Act twice, and there was an issue around lowering the age of parental consent to 15 at the time. A lot of pressure from this district. I did not support that. My view on that has evolved. And
I think that's time.
Okay.
Thank you, Senator. Senator, you mentioned education as an equalizer. I wanted to ask you all a question about education in Boston. Boston's planning to lay off a lot of BPS staff this year, as are other cities across the Commonwealth. They've all been hit with inflation. They've all been hit with rising healthcare costs and loss of grants from the federal government. And there's been a conversation about revisiting the Chapter 70 formula to fund our schools, which was last updated in 2019. Should we update the Chapter 70 formula, and how? And how will you ensure that BPS gets the resources it needs in the Senate? We'll start with you, Senator Collins.
Well, I'm proud to support the Retirement Plus bill, which I think is going to provide relief for not just Boston, but other municipalities feeling the strain with respect to our teachers that will allow teachers near the end of their time to retire, which will free up positions. But, you know, we have to acknowledge the overspending. I mean, we have 300 new employees whose jobs didn't exist before, and then we're going to lay off 300 teachers. That's a value decision. I think we have to be conscious of that.
Thanks, Latoya.
Yes, I think we should look at overhauling Chapter 70. It doesn't account for embedded inequities that exist in cities like Boston. Your job as a state senator is to make sure that your city, your district has funding. I can't control how Boston will spend its money, but my job would be to make sure that Boston has the funding to do what it needs to do.
Yeah, 30 seconds.
You know, we deliver over $500 million a year in Chapter 70 unrestricted government aid, and much more than that when you account for what the legislature delivers for the fire department, for the Boston Public Library. So just that the Boston delegation isn't doing that. And we did transform the Chapter 70 formula in 2019. More can be done, and we are pushing that. That's why we did pass the commission to get the rest of our colleagues to support our efforts to increase those funds.
And Juwan, what would you do or do you support overhauling Chapter 70, and what else would you do to bring more money to schools in Boston?
Yeah, when it comes to Chapter 70, I want to make sure that, you know, our teachers are able to retire and retire well, receive their pensions. And, you know, when I think about our Boston public schools, I just want to see more investment. When it comes to our teachers, they're not given enough resources for our kids. You know, their budget is getting cut left and right, so we're taking away more programming from our kids to be educated properly. This goes back to my topic about wasteful spending. The fact that the city and state has been putting money towards outside citizens rather than prioritizing the people who live here. This is why we're faced with this deficit at this point in time. So we need to change. We need to make changes. And it starts on September 1st, so I encourage you to vote for change.
Thank you. Kind of looking at education from the graduation perspective, you know, in 2024, there was a ballot question to say that, you know, voters said that the state's MCAS exam should not be used as a graduation requirement. Governor Healy has a commission to decide what a new graduation requirement should be. What would you like to see come out of that commission, Latoya?
I definitely don't think we should have another high-stakes test be the graduation requirement because voters said no to that. I do believe in standards, I do believe in accountability, and I think that should be decided with our educators, with our families, and with our students. And you know what, we could even bring in employers. What are you guys looking for when people graduate from high school? Higher education, what are you looking for when kids come out of our education system?
So your answer to what should come out of the commission is not a high-stakes test?
Not a high-stakes test, not at all, but standards that we can trust our educators to implement.
Juwan?
What I would like to see come out of that commission is transparent education for our kids. I want to make sure that there are more after-school programs that are invested in. And I want to make sure that, you know, that students need a safe space. So when I was in college, well, when I was in high school, I felt like there was only 2 guidance counselors to about 300 graduating students. So I feel like in order to meet the students halfway, we need to start bringing the colleges to them or doing more tours to give them more education. And not just colleges, but also giving them the option to learn a trade so that they have a life skill to carry with them.
So do you have an idea of what kind of graduation requirement you would want to see come out of the commission?
I would say for the graduation requirement, I would see that you help a senior center, volunteer with a senior center, as well as learn a trade. You volunteer with one of the unions to learn a trade.
Thanks. Senator Collins? from the MCAS Commission?
Yes, so I do believe in objective assessments to help guide where we're going. And in the last number of years, we've identified that the competency, particularly around literacy, has been going in the wrong direction since 2019, particularly in the aftermath of the pandemic. So this year we passed legislation to provide literacy resources and change the policies to allow municipalities for early intervention at our school district levels. I think we shouldn't have a one-size-fits-all, and we should not have a two-tiered system, which was floated out there as relates to for graduates. So I think in collaboration with educators, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, but really similarly to how we've dealt with successfully other reforms with our school districts, giving autonomy to our school districts.
Thanks. Kind of last question on education. This is about childcare and early education, which I think many of you brought up when it comes to affordability. Massachusetts, as a lot of folks here probably know, has the most expensive childcare and early education in the country. What is the most urgent action the state Senate could take to make it more affordable for parents? We'll start with you, Senator Collins.
Well, we could tap into the surplus fund to increase those resources. We could also, at least with respect to the city of Boston, reform how funds are administered to the Convention Center Authority. Former Mayor Marty Walsh had proposed this a number of years ago, and something that I would look to pursue again, and they're looking to do that in the Economic Development Bill. It's just to leverage resources of the city that gets generated inside the city, tourism fees, rental car surcharges, as well as regional hotel taxes. Right now, the Convention Center Fund is over $500 million. I'm sorry, $500,000. So, sorry, $500 million. And so,
that would be low.
Annually, I'm kidding. Annually, I think there's an ability to draw from those resources to increase it at the local level.
Latoya? This is about childcare and what the state can do to make it more affordable.
We need to make it more affordable for providers to provide that care, and we can start doing that by increasing the funding for C3 grants that provide operational funding for providers, so less of that cost is passed on to parents. Parents are paying more than the cost of rent for childcare right now. We should also open up those wait lists. Parents are on these wait lists, income eligible, and they can't get off these wait lists. And we should also make sure our child care financial assistance, child care vouchers, layman's term for everybody, that the providers who accept them, they're reimbursed at rates that make sense, so that it's the true cost of care.
Thank you. And Juwan, on addressing child care costs?
Well, I'll first start with reaching out to State Auditor Diana DeZoglio, right, to figure out where the money is currently going and how it's being spent. And then I will basically, when it comes to child care, we need to definitely be increasing the vouchers, but we also need to create a friends and family network. So when there's not, those big corporations taking care of your kids, you can also have a network with friends and family and neighbors that can sign up who are qualified, that can also do the service.
Thank you.
No problem.
I want to turn to healthcare, another big one, and a big affordability issue for a lot of folks. 20 years ago, the 2006 Massachusetts healthcare reform law passed, and we're celebrating that 20th birthday. I wanted to ask how you evaluate its progress since 2006 and what the state needs to do to improve affordability and access to healthcare. Latoya.
Well, yeah, it was great. Massachusetts has some of the lowest uninsured rates in the nation. But, on this campaign trail, I've had the opportunity to speak with voters, young voters who told me that they can no longer afford health insurance, especially with the cuts from the federal government, and they're paying a penalty on their taxes. And so I think it's time for us to have single-payer insurance, and that's what Massachusetts should be working toward, another first in the nation single-payer healthcare.
Thank you. Juwan, what's your solution to affordability and access to healthcare?
Let's see.
The question was actually, do you think that that we've that we've made progress since 2006 when the healthcare reform law passed.
Yeah, I like the current system Mass Health currently has for our community. I like how we still have many different insurance options. I do feel like they can be a little bit more affordable. But one thing I want to see is, Kearney Hospital was a hospital in my neighborhood that was closed down. We're still waiting to see some improvements from the city or state as it relates to Kearney Hospital. But definitely the goal is to make sure that our hospitals have spaces that they can grow. We do need a full service hospital at Kearney Hospital. So it's definitely, evaluating every neighborhood. I don't even think like one neighborhood, for example, Quincy, I don't think they have a hospital. So there's different areas in Massachusetts that you have to look into that need support.
Great, thank you. Yes, Senator Collins.
No, I think access is important, and I fought the closure of Kearney Hospital with everything I had. Actually, was alone on the stage doing that. And I think going forward, that access is critical. We did pass legislation, the PACT Act, to cap prescription costs, which is a critical part of the cost sharing with patients to limit that. And I think some of the things that we're looking at with primary care, we'll be voting on next week to expand the amount of primary care physicians. But where the rubber meets the road in this district and the communities that I represent is our health centers. And so supporting our health centers, as we've continued to do, that's the front lines of healthcare. It also keeps people out of the emergency room, which drives up the cost of healthcare. It's something that we've done in league with the Massachusetts League of Community Health Centers, and we're looking at a partnership with them at Kearney Hospital for sort of a Kearney 3.0. But supporting our community health centers and giving them the tools and resources they need to expand service.
Great, thank you. All right, I think this is going to be our last question. This is really, time has flown, so thank you guys. A lot of folks here obviously are Democrats, and there's been a lot of discussion over the past couple years about the future of the Democratic Party, just given 2024. I wanted to ask, what steps you think, the Democratic Party should move toward, what can be done, and also your thoughts on the way, if the Massachusetts Democratic Party should raise campaign finance limits, which is something that they are asking for and the Republican Party is also asking for. So two-parted question, how do we address the future of the Democratic Party, and also should the parties here raise the campaign finance limits? We will start with you, Juwan.
Oh, wow. Say the question one more time.
There's been a lot of talk about the Democratic Party in the wake of the 2024 election. Mm-hmm. How does the Democratic Party move forward, and do you support the Massachusetts Democrats State Party call to raise campaign finance contribution limits?
The Democratic Party could be a little bit more supportive. I ran for office, I'll say again, 4 years. I haven't received a card, you know what I mean? Like they did, I don't, just to say thank you for running, something like that. So I don't feel like, there's enough connection between the candidates who run and the Democratic Party. I also feel that the campaign limit, you said, should they raise the campaign limit?
The campaign finance limit, like how much someone can contribute to a campaign in the state.
No, I think, the $1,000 contribution is enough, and I'm against Citizens United as well, so I want to make sure that there's not unlimited money flowing in our election as well.
Thank you. Senator Collins.
I support our party chair, Steve Kerrigan. I think he's doing a very good job. I think a couple things that we can do is to distill the polarization. National Institute for Civil Discourse says we're more polarized than we've ever been. I think part of that is getting the objective truth to people. We see how weaponized social media can be, so supporting community-based journalism and the free press is incredibly important, as that has been the backstop against this misinformation that has filled the ether. So I think that's important. I think we need to do things to get more people involved That includes ranked choice voting, increased same-day registration, and delivering a message that is broad-based around priorities that support growing the middle class and growing our economy and supporting those on the margins, not spending time responding to polarizing policies of the other side.
Thank you. Latoya?
Can you repeat the question for me?
Yeah, the question is, sorry, it's kind of a two-part
Okay.
question, but what you would argue for the National Democratic Party to do to move past kind of the results in 2024, and then also if you support the state party's goals of raising contribution limits to campaigns in Massachusetts.
No, I'll answer the second part first because
Sure.
I think that's easy. No, I think we should be trying to get money out of elections, so I don't support that. And as far as the Democratic Party moving forward, I think the Democrats need to lean into their progressive values. I think the Democratic Party has shied away from them, and we see the results of that. I think we need to go full force. I think when, for instance, when we had a racial reckoning in this country after the murder of George Floyd, some folks voted for a post-commission. Some people stood in the way of that. When our rights are being threatened by every time you look up, the Supreme Court is overturning something. We need to lean into our progressive values and actually be progressive as Democrats.
Thank you so much. I think that's it for us. Thank you guys all again for coming. I think there's going to be some closing. Yeah. But thanks. Give it up for our candidates.
Okay, I talk very loud, so it's always jarring for me talking with the mic. Hello, my name is Jonathan Cohn. I'm the secretary with the Ward 4 Democratic Committee. I wanted to begin by saying thank you to our moderator, Samantha Gross from the Boston Globe, and we have a gift to thank her. And thank again the candidates for joining us this evening and the candidates in the first round of the debate. So we'll give another applause for the candidates this evening. You can give an applause for yourself for sticking with us for 2 hours. An applause to our hosts at Berkeley. What was that? Yes, thank you to our timers for keeping everybody. And I thank our cameraman as well. So yes, applaud for the recording. And again, I wanted to thank again, this was a partnership between the Boston Wards 4 and 5 Democratic committees. We've been delighted at Ward 4 to partner with our neighbors at Ward 5 for a variety of candidate forums over the year. I believe, since 2018, or I think actually 17, each cycle there ends up being some race where our two wards share that we're able to partner. Earlier this year, we had come together when we realized that the two of the state senate districts in Boston with competitive races were in our overlap. As a reminder of the geography of this, here in Ward 4, we kind of represent part of Back Bay, part of the Fenway, and part of the South End. Our neighbors in Boston Ward 5 are to the north of us. They also represent part of the Back Bay, also part of the Fenway, also part of the South End, as well as Beacon Hill, Bay Village, Chinatown, and a sliver of downtown Boston. I want to give a general pitch for getting engaged, because democracy comes from people being involved every day, not just on the election days themselves, although you do need to make a plan to vote on the election days. So, as a reminder for that, who here knows the date of the primary this year?
Number one.
Yes. It is September 1st. That is a move-in day in Boston. It is also before Labor Day, so make sure that you do have a plan to vote. And for that primary, if you're going to be away then, make sure to make a plan to vote early or vote by mail. There are so many different ways for you to vote, so make sure to do it and make sure your friends do so as well. Again, if you're interested in getting more involved, you can come up to anybody involved in the planning team for this event from Ward 4 or Ward 5, or check out our websites. We will be sharing a recording of this afterwards. So to prevent myself from babbling on, I'll end with another thank you for everybody here, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.